To come up short, it stings, and nobody thought we were going to be here. And we had our shot, and this is more the beginning than it is the end of something.
Pederson told me they have depth. He said he feels like they've really filled out this roster well. Now they're going to go look for depth. The Jacksonville Jaguars looking to get stronger after really a dream season.
Yeah, Evan Ingram, one of the top, probably the top tight end, expected to be franchise.
Touchdown! Evan Ingram hauls it in!
Today, the league has officially reinstated Jaguars wide receiver Calvin Ridley.
This is going to give them a top-level receiver out of nowhere, essentially.
Jones is open. He's got a touchdown!
This has the potential to be a really, really dynamic offense.
Touchdown, Jaguars!
Be afraid. Be very afraid, because the Jags are back, people.
ETN off to the races. And the return by Allen for the touchdown. The Jaguars have won it! The Jaguars have won it! It was always the Jags, baby! There you have it, a look back from last season, and now it's on to 2023, and it begins in Kansas City, Missouri at the NFL Draft. We are closing in on the start at 8 o'clock, beginning. The Jags won't pick until about 10:30 tonight. And welcome into our draft day coverage from Daly's Place in Jacksonville. The DUUUVAL Draft Party is underway. And welcome into our coverage on Jaguars.com. Day one coverage on the team side is presented by Cadillac. I'm JP Shadrick. Glad you're along with us tonight. Well, it's always a special night, the first round of the NFL Draft. The last 2 years have been more special than we would have hoped. Of course, the number one overall pick, and it's worked out, certainly for the Jaguars. Tonight, number 24, still valuable, certainly for this organization. It could be a long night, though. A lot of scenarios in play. We'll see what happens in the picks leading up to it. It could be, as we said, about 10:30 or so tonight, at least, when the Jaguars make their pick in the first round. Of course, 2 picks coming up on Friday, 6 picks currently on the docket for Saturday. We'll see what Trent Baalke has in mind. He's not afraid to make moves, at least in his past in the NFL Draft on days 2 and 3, especially if there's value there. We'll hear from the Jags GM coming up in just a moment. Let's go now to the stage at Daly's Place. Head coach Doug Pederson with Kai Stevens.
Hey, at the end of every team meeting, you always say, let's go get some ice cream. What's your favorite ice cream?
My favorite ice cream is straight Haagen-Dazs, vanilla flavor, end of story, bottom line.
Solid, classic. Classic choice. And I know you're a big ice cream guy.
Yeah, I love ice cream. My mom growing up, she always kept, a tub in the freezer, and we had all different kinds growing up, but I've kind of stuck on the Haagen-Dazs brand. I really like that. But I'll eat anything, if it's vanilla.
All right, it is draft night, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. This is a very different position than the team has been in the last 2 seasons, and it's a great news because of how well the team did last year. What are some difficulties with picking at 24 as opposed to number 1?
Yeah, last year when I was up here on stage, I was looking at my watch going, hey, we only have about 20 minutes before we're on the clock. This year is a little bit different, and one of the things that I told Mr. Khan during my interview process is I didn't want to be picking first overall anymore. I wanted to be in that 20-plus range or being 32, and that means you've done some good things throughout the course of the year. But it is a different draft because there's going to be a lot of good players picked before us, and there's going to be some good players there at 24, when we're on the clock. So we get a chance to kind of sit back, enjoy the first part of this draft, see where some of these top athletes are going to go, and then make our pick at 24.
We heard from Trent a little bit earlier. How important is it for you and the GM to be on the same page when you're making decisions about who you're bringing onto the team?
It's everything in an organization when you're dealing with so many players and you're making decisions that are best for the team. I feel like the general manager and head coach have to be united and really attached at the hip through this whole process. And I've really appreciated Trent from the standpoint of how he's involved the coaching staff, how he's involved me, in this process and really getting our input. He feels like, hey, coach, you're the one out there on the field with the players. You should have some input on who we select. So I really appreciate Trent, giving us that sort of freedom to do that. And he and I are on the same page. We've had a lot of dialogue here in the last week or so about our board and where the players are, and we're excited for the next 3 days.
When we let you go, you're going back to the draft room. What is the vibe in there? Is there a list of names? What does it look like in there?
Yeah, we've got the draft board with all the players' names on it, the magnets, and kind of where we feel, they're going to be selected tonight in the next couple of days. And, and it's the vibe is exciting. This is always a great night. Obviously you guys, the fans, are here celebrating this night with us and really going back and celebrating our season last year. And our focus and the excitement for us is that we get to add 9 draft picks, right? 9 more draft picks to what we already have, and then of course we get the undrafted guys. So tonight and this weekend is the beginning to me of what our team will look like going into 23.
All right, can you give us any hints about who you're going to pick, or are you going to keep it secret? All right, Coach, let's get a Duval before we get you out of here for the crowd.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it. You guys ready?
3, 2,
Here
1.
we go. 1, 2, 3.
Duval. All right, Coach Doug Pederson, everybody.
There you have it. Head coach Doug Pederson on stage with Kai Stevens. That's one part of the decision-making group for the Jaguars. Another is GM Trent Baalke. Had a chance to catch up with him in the draft room today. Just a couple hours ago, he's been at this for nearly a decade as a GM in the NFL. He's got his draft day routine down.
It's been the same all 10 years, I think. I get up early. We walk through some of the stuff in the morning. Ethan and I spent the morning going through some things on the board. The board's been set. We haven't changed anything. We just kind of take one more look, and then I usually head out for a run and get a few miles on the road and get back here and try to get ready for this thing.
Are there nerves still? Is there anxiety? Is there a mix of both? None at this time, or just a few hours away?
Not really. I think we've put in a lot of time, a lot of effort that went into this. Coaches, personnel, staff. There's been a lot of hours that we've sorted through film and records on people, background check, all the stuff that you do to get ready. Now it's more just kind of the anxiety, the anxiousness of getting this thing started and finding out exactly who's going to be a Jaguar.
You said last week you're down to 3 or 4 guys that you really think could be in play there at 24. If it comes down to it and multiple of those 3 or 4 guys are available, how do you figure out which one you take?
But that's already been decided. We have a pecking order. Coach and I met with Shad last night, went through our thoughts, exactly the order we would pick them as they come off. Today isn't the day to debate who you're going to go after, right? We have 3 or 4 guys that we feel really good about. And we have more than that, let's face it. You got to be prepared for anything. But we've got a group of guys that we're really interested in, and we've got an order at which we would take them.
How wild could it get at the top? Just hearing all these reports, I know you're not a big Twitter guy, but all that stuff combined the last day or two before the draft can be chaos. Is that reality tonight?
Yeah, I don't know. Everyone thought it was last year, and very little went on, so who knows? And that's the great thing about the draft, right? Everything that happens, nobody can really plan out. You really don't know until you're on the clock a lot of times whether you're going to make a move or not make a move. And it's no different for any other team.
Part of the draft process is bringing those drafted players back for a second contract. That gives stability to the organization. Devon Hamilton signed, that was announced today, extended. Draft pick here has worked his way up and really has been rewarded with a deal long term. And that's really the goal of the organization, right? To get these draft picks to stick around for a while.
Yeah, you want to be a homegrown football team as much as you can. And we've been pretty fortunate the last couple of years. We've gotten some really good.
Yeah, just around the United States. I didn't go out of the country yet. Maybe in June, July. I saw a lot of friends all over.
But the philosophy of this team, this organization, is going to be draft and retain. And Devon has worked his tail off, and he's a byproduct of that process. He's a great culture fit. He's an excellent fit for the defensive scheme we run. I can't say enough good things about him, and the contract that he signed, he earned.
This is the last draft in this room, because next year you'll be in the football building. How about that?
Well, this is a great room. It really is. We were talking to the ownership about it last night. Very few have this kind of space. We got 3 full-screen videos going on. We can do a lot of things in here from a technology standpoint. The new one's going to be special, though, too.
Let's see
and Trent Baalke, of course. You can hear that conversation on Jaguars.com. A live look into Daly's Place, packed house. The DUUUVAL Draft Party is underway. J.P. Shadrick, Jeff Lageman joining us now, and Jags linebacker Foye Oluokun is with us too. Oh, great to see you. Thanks for coming up here, man.
No,
this is
exciting.
Always fun, right?
Love the
night.
energy and stuff. This is fun to be around for sure.
You were a 6th-round draft pick, but what does draft weekend mean to you? Just because of that day 3, you're waiting by the phone.
Yeah.
Give us your story on draft.
No, I'm not used to all this. I was asleep on the couch on day 3 at my coach's house, just waiting to get picked up. You know, I thought I was going to be a free agent, but I was definitely blessed with the opportunity to get drafted. So it's just cool for everybody to know what they're going, to be blessed with that same opportunity. Just know that the work starts right that day, that you have to continue to get better from that point on. You know, if you want to be a solid contributor to a team, it's a lot to learn, a lot to grow from.
A lot of people think that once you make it to the NFL, it's instant richness, right?
No.
A 6th-round draft pick, okay, just to have a little fun here. What was your signing bonus as a 6th-round pick a few years back? Do you remember?
Irrelevant.
Could you even get a car out of it?
That was going straight to the bank, and I was worried on trying to make that 53-man roster.
That's the smart way.
To be honest with you, yeah.
That's the smart way, no doubt.
Hey, off-season program has started, so a bunch of guys are in the building getting workouts in. Next week on the field, it's a little more work, so the excitement level, and you talked about it in a press conference earlier, right at the start of the program, the standard is last year.
Right.
You got to maintain that, build upon it moving ahead, and you guys are in charge of keeping that alive, right?
Yes, sir. The standard was last year, but we want to improve on it. Had a lot of good success towards the end of the season, but we kind of know what it takes to win games in this league. And like I keep saying in interviews, like I don't think you can catch teams by surprise anymore. So there's that added element as well. Just being able to prepare and bring the right energy week in, week out. Whoever's coming to the team tonight, hopefully they're joining on that same path. We're going to get their mentality right to be a solid contributor to the team, like I said earlier.
Well, every year it takes a toll on the body, and the way you play the game, you play with great energy. You never miss a snap. How's your body? How's your mind? And are you excited about this off season, because it's not all new like it was last year?
Definitely excited about the whole not new factor. It's not a lot of things that I haven't been expecting coming in the offseason. Being able to play late into the season, postseason, that was definitely new for me. So it's a little frustrating. Like I'm seeing, guys starting to work out and stuff, and I want to get right back into it like I usually do. But my body did go through 2 extra games, and we were grinding the whole second half of the season just to get to the postseason. But it's all about like what do you want to do now to get your body back right? And it might be a couple like more recovery things, more little injury lists, more like things getting the little muscles right, but just whatever you have to do to be ready for the start of the next season, because I know we have another place to get to, and I want to make sure I'm on my P's and Q's for that.
Now, Foye, do you watch the draft all weekend? Do you stay away from it? What's your approach?
I didn't watch the draft last year. I had my agent telling me, I was new to the team. We were bringing 2 new linebackers to the team, so he told me that they probably wanted me to be able to teach them everything I know and be able to grow with them at the same time. It was going to be the contributor to the team, so that was a challenge in itself, because I was used to having 2 vets above me, basically teaching and wheeling and dealing like that. And then being on the field with 2 guys who had never been in NFL football, I mean, they were just so eager to learn. They were definitely eager to get better, and that's all I could ask for them, and I'm excited for the year 2 with them.
For you, okay, your alma mater, okay, tell everybody where you went to school.
Yale University.
Okay, Ivy League guy, okay, it's not very common. So how many draftable guys does Yale have this year for the draft?
I mean, 4 guys, I think 6 guys did a pro day, so we'll see. I know one guy, I know Major, my boy. I'm very close with his family. He did very well at the pro day. I know some DBs did well. Kyle Ellis and Mile Oldacare, they did well. I know I got an offensive lineman coming through. One offensive lineman actually transferred to South Carolina. He's starting supposedly for them, so we'll see what he comes through next year. But anybody who got a chance, I talk to them. I make sure I tell them like what their mindset has to be going to the draft, and just be realistic and know that we have higher highs to get to. So whatever the call is, going to be probably a day 3 call either for free agency or the draft. Know that we have to work.
Foye, we appreciate the time. Thanks for coming up to the sea level up here. I know you got to go on the stage here in a little bit, so let's get a big DUUUVAL before you go. Are you going to have to do it down there?
Of course. Anywhere I go, huh?
Yeah.
DUUUVAL!
DUUUVAL! Hey, look at that. A Yale Duval. Well done. Foye Oluokun joining us, Jaguars linebacker. Appreciate the time, man. We'll talk to you a little bit later. Down the line, the roar of the Jaguars on the stage. Downstairs, Jeff Lageman, and here we go. We're closing in on the first round of the NFL Draft. It starts at 8 o'clock tonight, about 15 minutes away. We'll take you all the way up to the start of the draft. We'll come back with some updates in the bowl. We'll be live after the pick tonight, maybe 10:30ish, depending on the time frame tonight, but a long night of headlines.
I can tell you this, JP, because Trent Baalke has traded up and back in his career, I'm prepared for anything. I mean, this team could end up picking sooner rather than later.
They could. You never know.
Or it could be moved back. You never know.
Up, down, left, right, somewhere.
There's always a move. Well, it's all about value, and I think Trent has done a good job in his past when he's traded up or back and getting good value, and that's what you have to get. You know, and at 24, there's going to be a team sitting there going, boy, we really like this guy, and would the Jaguars be willing to do that? And sometimes it's hard to do that because there's guys staring at you at that pick that you want to pick. But if you can get the value, you got to do it.
Quickly, a couple of positions that could be of need for the Jaguars. We talked a lot about cornerbacks. We talked a lot about offensive line, especially the tackle position. Which one is the more needy position right now for you?
I think right now, the top position of need would be defensive back, you know, and at the corner spot. I mean, that's a position that, look, this is a nickel league now, you know, 3 wide receivers, and so you've got to have the corners to be able to match up with those guys. And there's 2 ways to stop the passing game, or what it is now in the National Football League, and that's rushing the passer, which they drafted some guys last year to do that, and then you got to cover well so they get more time to rush the passer. So hopefully they can find a couple guys that can cover, because you know what? If they can find 2, that would be fantastic.
Does the Cam Robinson news change anything for you?
It does. I mean, you definitely have to factor it in, but you signed Josh Wells. You know, the one thing that this team has done a good job of the last couple of years is that they're filling holes prior to the draft that allows them to be able to pick the best available player. And when you sign Josh Wells, he's an experienced guy. He's played left. He's played right. So if you have to play Josh Wells for 6 weeks or whatever the suspension ends up being for Cam Robinson, if in fact there is a suspension, then you could get by. But, you know, last year you had a little bit of a luxury because you had Cam and Juwan as the starters, and then you had Walker Little as a swing guy. And right now, if all of a sudden Cam is out, where's your swing guy? You know, your swing guy is now a starter, so you got to start thinking about depth at that position.
Jeff, thank you very much. Enjoy the evening. We'll be on radio all night tonight, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to this draft. I think this is one of the more intriguing drafts because we really don't know where a lot of these players are going to be picked.
It's going to be a fun night for sure. That's Jeff Lageman. Let's go to Kansas City now. Brian Sexton is standing by with an update from Draft Central.
There is tangible optimism in Jacksonville for the first time in more than 5 years. And talking to folks around the NFL who are here in Kansas City covering the 2023 NFL Draft, there's a sense that the Jaguars are ready to take their seat at the big boy table in the AFC. NFL Network's Charles Davis explains why.
I just think that when we go back to the playoff game and it's halftime and he's had a rough first half, to put it mildly, and the head coach is just like, he's fine. We just got to do this, we got to do that. And then it all came together. I don't know that I saw a better moment in the NFL last year. A coach understanding how to work with his young quarterback, what his team needed at that time, and then them feeling it from their head coach and it translating. And that's what you saw with that young man. He is who we thought he was going to be coming out of school.
The Jaguars find themselves in a new spot, a different spot for them in this year's first round. They're in the bottom third of the first 31 picks. But it's not all bad. The Jaguars need an offensive tackle, a tight end, and a cornerback. And this year, all 3 could be there. NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah says it's that offensive tilt the Jaguars should lean in on.
I'm going to talk about it on the draft. I'm just going to refer to it as the Mahomes doctrine, which is at some point in time, you almost give up. You're not going to be able to stop them. So you might as well load up on offense and see if you can go into Kansas City and win a shootout. And if you've got 3, you need 4 weapons. If you've got 1 tight end, you need 2 tight ends. You can't have enough offense.
More good news for the Jaguars. If they opt for offensive line in the first round, they could still find a cornerback or a tight end at pick 56 or 88. back to you guys.
All right, Brian, thank you very much. And John Osher with us now, Jaguars.com senior writer. We're closing in on 8 o'clock. That's the start of the NFL draft. The Jags might not pick until about 10:30 or so. Last year they traded back into number 27, and that was at 10:59 p.m. So you do the math, John. It's going to be a long night either way, but here we are. Let's get used to this, right? Number 1 pick the last 2 years. If you're picking 24th later than that, that means you've done some good things the season before.
Well, I've been thinking about this a lot in the last couple of weeks, that really this is where Trent Baalke is going to need to shine for the next 5-10 years, because I think people assume with Trevor Lawrence you're going to be picking around here. And if you don't do well at the bottom of the first round and you're in this position, then you're not going to be in this position very long, you follow me. So this has to be the trend. I think the good news for this team is, as Brian said in his spot, the positions that you feel like they need, corner, tight end, offensive line, are there to be had. And I think it's deep at corner and tight end, which there have been years where tight end's not very deep. So I think that's why they probably won't go that direction in the first round, but they might go back and try to complement what they believe is a very good tight end room already later in those rounds. So I think this is one of the more fascinating first rounds from a league-wide perspective we've seen in a long time. I think they could play into the Jaguars, because I think this Jaguars first-round draft is the most interesting in a long, long time.
Yep, all those quarterbacks go early, and then there's a run on one position after that. That moves some of the other guys down into the 20s, and we'll see what happens in the picks ahead. And Trent Baalke talked about it in our conversation. He's talked about it the last couple of weeks, his last availability as well. They've gone through all these scenarios. They've done mocks. They've figured out they've got 3 or 4 players they would really like there, they feel could be there at 24. It's just a matter of seeing it play out, and they talked to the ownership last night about it. So all full speed ahead. Damn the torpedoes. Here we go.
Yeah, and there's 3 or 4 players Trent knows. You don't know when you talk to him, so I sure don't know. I think they feel like they've done their research, and they feel like, I'm assuming, there's probably a couple of ideal guys, and then there's a couple of guys that they pretty much know based on mocks and needs are going to be there. What you wonder about, JP, and Jeff Loggeman, you and I talked about this earlier in the day, with the draft being so weird at the top, with there being 5 quarterbacks, and this being a draft where a lot of people around the league aren't sure what other teams are thinking, could there be a legitimate faller, a legitimate guy who they believe is elite, slip to them at 24? Usually that's a pipe dream. This year, I think they've got to be open to the possibility of that happening, and there are certainly guys that they don't believe they'll get, that if they slip to them, they'll change their path and go get that guy. Very interesting, and it'll be interesting to see if Trent shares some of that in the post-mortem of this draft, meaning tonight, if something like that happens, because people are anticipating this draft, JP, to be very weird in the first 15, 20 picks.
He actually shared that picking from 127 players, they're narrowed down the entire field to 127. Not a lot of GMs will tell you that. Bucky Brooks told us that in the Huddle Up podcast earlier this week. He was surprised that he actually gave that number out. But hey, that doesn't mean they're going to pick exactly from those guys. If they're not there, they're out of it. Those are the guys that fit every box, from culture to play to tape, everything. There's not a miss on their idea of what an ideal prospect should be.
I think it's important to realize when they're saying that, they've researched everybody. And within each round, within each grade of position group that they feel like, they have targeted, who knows the number. If you divide 127 by 7, that's about 20-ish. You went to Alabama, you know that.
I was told there would be no math tonight.
So you probably got 15 or 16 guys at each cluster where they are, and then other guys that they know they could go up and get. They have guys that they like, that they believe can make this team and help them at every position group. That's what he meant. He did not mean that the draft stops being good after the 127th player is chosen. Some people thought that. That's not what he meant.
All right, John, so it's come down to this. The Jaguars will be on the clock at number 24. So what's your gut telling you tonight?
Well, on our show this afternoon at Happy Hour, I went with Brian Branch. of Alabama, the defensive back. I could easily change and go 5 or 6 different guys because I don't know about Brian Branch. But the reason I'm going with him, he's a nickel. He could theoretically come in and fill an immediate need. And then once they had more corners who could play those spots, he could theoretically later in his career go to safety. Makes some sense to me. Who knows?
For me, I'm going Darnell Wright, offensive tackle from the University of Tennessee. We heard what happened, obviously, the report this morning. They've known about that report for a long time, a number of weeks, the Jaguars have, so it shouldn't change any preparation for tonight. But just think about the situation at tackle in the years ahead. I think it makes a lot of sense, and you can never go wrong protecting your quarterback a little bit more. You never know with the offensive line what could happen. We saw what happened last year. They needed that swing tackle and guys to fill in there. So I would go with Darnell Wright. That's my pick for tonight. John, we'll talk to you a little bit later after the draft pick tonight, and we'll look forward to that and look forward to number 24 overall. Thanks to our entire crew, and thanks to you for watching. Enjoy the draft on NFL Network. An 8 o'clock start right around the corner. The Jaguars pick number 24, and day one coverage is presented by Cadillac.